Good morning. So we're going to start today with negative exponents. So a negative exponent, the rule for negative exponents is that we can make them positive exponents. Okay, so we can make these positive exponents by moving the exponent to the denominator and making it positive. So you move the base that has the negative exponent to the denominator. Okay, if it's in the denominator, we can move it to the numerator and make it positive. Okay, all right, so let's look at some of these examples. Just make them positive exponents. So here I've got x to the negative fifth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the x to the fifth to the bottom and make it a positive. Number 2 right here, the only one that has a negative exponent is going to be that x to the negative third. So the only thing that's going to move is going to be the x to the negative third. The negative 2 is going to stay in the numerator. So it's going to be negative 2 over x to the third power. Okay, this one here, I've got x squared over y to the negative fourth power. So this y to the negative fourth power is going to move up to the numerator. So I'm going to have x squared bring up y to the fourth. Okay. Number 4 here, we've got x to the negative third, y to the negative fourth. So they're both negative, so I'm basically just going to flip-flop these. So I'm going to bring y to the fourth to the numerator, and I'm going to bring x cubed to the denominator. Okay. Here, same thing, but the 3 is going to stay where it is. Okay. So I'm going to bring y to the fifth to the numerator, keep my 3 in the denominator, and x to the negative third is going to move to the denominator to become positive. Okay, this last one over here, so we're going to flip-flop. So I'm going to keep a 2a constant up there. In the numerator now, I'm going to have a c to the positive fourth, and then b to the positive third. Okay, so let's do some more practice here. So here we can now simplify. So x to the negative third times x to the negative sixth. What would I do to those exponents? I would say x to the negative third plus negative 6, right? So that's going to be x to the negative ninth power. Okay, we want to make it positive, so this is going to be 1 over x to the positive ninth. Okay. Number 2, here we would multiply, so 4 times negative 3 is a negative 12. Here, I'm going to move it over here. So that would be a negative 12. Okay, y to the negative 3 plus 1, z squared plus 4. So I'm going to have a negative 12, y to the negative 2, z to the 6th power. So the only thing that needs to move to become a positive is going to be that y to the negative 2. Okay, so this y to the negative 2 is going to be moving to the denominator. So I'm going to have a negative 12, z to the 6th over y squared. Alright, so here for number 3 right here, we can distribute that negative exponent. So it's going to be 2 raised to the negative third power. X, I would multiply those, right? So 2 times negative 3 is a negative 6 power. And then y to the negative third power. Okay, so we'll move all of these to the denominator because they all have a negative exponent. So I'm going to say 2 to the positive 3, x to the positive 6, and y cubed. That 2 to the negative 3, you can't simplify that, okay? You can't simplify that without moving it to make it a positive. Okay, so we have to make it positive before we can simplify it. Okay, so here, sorry, still have my highlighter on. So I would have 1 over 2 cubed, which is now an 8, x to the 6th, y cubed. Okay. All right, for this one here, I'm going to have a negative 4 raised to the negative 3rd power, x to the negative 6 times negative 3, which is a positive 18. So I'm going to move this whole thing to the denominator. So I'm going to have x to the 18th over negative 4 raised to the positive 3rd power. So x to the 18th over negative 4 times negative 4. So positive 16, 16 times the negative 4, which is a negative 64. Okay. Alright, so let's look at this one. So here we would subtract our exponents. Okay, so I would have g to the 4 minus 5, h to the negative 5 minus a negative 5. So this is going to be g to the negative 1. And what happens right here? Minus a negative becomes a plus. And remember, so this will be h to the 0 power. H to the 0, so anything, remember, raised to the 0 power becomes a 1. Okay. Sorry, so this becomes a 1. So now I can move my g to the negative 1st power to the denominator. So I'm going to have 1 over g. Okay, now let's do another example here. So here I've got x to the negative 3rd, y to the 4th. So I would multiply these to x to the 10th, y to the negative 2. So I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to have x negative 3 times negative 3 plus, sorry, not multiply, but add, negative 3 plus a 10, and y to the 4th plus a negative 2. So this is going to be x to the negative 3 plus a 10, which will be a positive 7, and then y to the 4 plus a negative 2, which will be a positive 2. And neither of those are negative, so I don't have to move those anywhere. Okay. All right, what about this one here? Okay, I've got 5 to the negative 5x to the negative 2 power y. All of that raised to the negative 3. So I need to simplify that first. Okay, so I'm going to have 5 raised to the negative 3, and this is where you multiply. X to the negative 2 times negative 3, which is a positive 6. Y to the 1st raised to the negative 3, so that's going to be y to the negative 3 power. Okay, so I'm still going to have that 5 to the negative 3. And now, what do you do here? You'll add. Okay, you multiply those like bases together, so you'll add the exponents. So you'll have x to the 6th plus a negative 6, y to the negative 3 plus a 1. Okay? Alright, well, when you say 6 plus a negative 6, that'll be x to the 0 power. Y to the negative 3 plus a 1, so that's going to be y to the negative 2. Okay, anything to the 0 power is always a 1. Okay, so now what's going to happen? You need to move both of those to the denominator. So you're going to have 1 over 5 cubed y squared. Final answer, 1 over 125 y squared. Okay, so let's do this one here. There's 2 ways you could have simplified number 14 right here. You can go ahead and simplify inside that parentheses. So take everything inside that parentheses and simplify it. Simplify those 2 things and then distribute your exponent. That's what I'm going to do. So you would have a to the negative 2 minus a 2, b to the 3rd minus a 4th, and c cubed. All of that raised to the negative 2 power. So that would be a to the negative 4th, b to the negative 1st, and c cubed. All of that raised to the negative 2. And now distribute that negative exponent. So now you'll multiply. So you'll have a to the negative 4th times negative 2, which is a positive 8. B to the negative 1st raised to the negative 2. So multiply those, so it'll be positive 2. And c to the 3rd times negative 2, which is a negative 6. So the only one that needs to be moved here is going to be that c. Okay, so you'll say a to the 8th, b squared, all over c to the positive 6 power. Okay, all right, let's do one more. Okay, number 15 here. I've got 2x to the negative 3rd times 2x to the negative 3rd raised to the negative 2nd power. What could I do right here? What could I do right here? These are the same base. Okay, this one is raised to the 1st power, the other one is raised to the negative 2nd power. So what could I do right there? I could say 2x to the negative 3rd raised to the negative 1st power. How did I just do that? I said 1 minus 2. Okay? Just because I saw that inside those parentheses, those are identical. You didn't have to do that as your first step. Remember, there's multiple ways to start these. Okay? So then you would say 2 raised to the negative 1st, and x, negative 3 times a negative 1, which is a positive 3. Okay? So now, I'll move this to the bottom, make it a positive. Okay? Then what we can say x cubed minus a 3rd. Can combine those 2 things. Can't combine anything with that y to the 5th, so I'm just going to leave that in the denominator. Okay? So x cubed minus 3, so that's going to be x to the 0 power. 6 times 2 is a 12, y to the 5th. Remember, anything to the 0 power is always a 1. Okay. Alright, so finish up your worksheet in class and start working on your homework. Hope you'll have a wonderful day.